Hey guys, my name is Fiaschetti from Fiaschetti Woodworking, and today I'm going to show you how I made this tornado bowl. Take a look. I had a feeling that this bowl was going to be my best bowl ever, so I went all out with the wood selection, using holly, yellow heart, lacewood, maple, Katalox, poplar, teak, cherry, walnut, sassafras, and zebrawood. I can begin getting all of these boards into a better shape. A lot of them are in rough form still, as they were just cut off the sawmill, so I can begin milling them up. This holly had a bit of a twist to it, so I'm shimming it on a flat board and hot gluing it to it so I can use my planer effectively as a joiner. You can see here that the planer head hit the two corners. Once the top is flat, I can cut it off and run it through again. Now, I didn't need a ton of yellow heart, so I'm just cutting a piece out of it to save some wood in case I ever need a really wide board. With all of the lumber milled up, I can now cross cut it to length, which is about 15 inches. Now, this is a bit long because the final block is going to be 12 inches, but I want to have some room for snipe or if I make a slight mistake in any way. With all the pieces cut to length, I can now rip them to 3 inches wide, which will make up the thickness of the block that will turn into the layers of the bowl. Now I can rip all of the boards down to the proper thickness. This is what's going to cause the pattern in the bowl. All of the different thicknesses of pieces will give a nice variation to the pattern, so it's not a monotonous thing. I'm using a lot of thin strips worked in with thicker ones. The thin strips give depth to the design. I'm ripping a full 3 inches on my table saw right now. It has to go slow because the motor isn't able to cut through super quickly, but it was pretty easy going. A lot of the woods I'm working with are very hard. As you saw in the thumbnail, the pattern on this bowl came out beautifully. So I wanted to commemorate it, and I made a t-shirt up that is available for purchase on my website. They're linked in the descriptions, and I'll put an annotation over the picture. This shirt is beautiful. I really think you guys will enjoy it. With the block glued up, I can now clean it up on both sides. There's going to be 2 of these blocks. Each block makes up half of a ring. I can clean up the block so that I have a square reference face for when I'm ripping. I have the entire blank glued up in 2 halves. This is so that I can actually resaw it and have enough capacity on my table saw. Now what I'm going to do is resaw these into 3/16 inch thick strips, which will then make the rings of the bowl. My blade isn't perfectly square, so by flipping the block, there's a little groove. After each layer, I'm running the block through the planer so that it removes that groove. A side effect of that is that each layer has a perfectly flat face, which will be helpful to glue onto the bowl. You can see the layers here, and 2 layers put together to form an entire bowl ring. And I can draw the rings out corresponding to the proper diameter on the diagram. Each sheet will have different diameter rings. I have all the boards cut, the purple, blue, green, orange, and red, which correspond to their respective colors on this diagram right here, and the diameters right here. I also have the concentric rings marked out, which correspond to this diagram right here also. And now I'm going to take them over to the bandsaw and cut them out. Remember, they're just halves at this point, so it's going to be easier to enter into the cut, so I can enter the cut this way and exit here without having to drill holes to use a scroll saw. I can now take two halve rings and glue them together. I'm using a board with circles drawn on it to help center the rings when I put them onto the bowl. I use hot glue to secure it to the ring. Using the tailstock, I can put pressure on the ring and center it at the same time. Now, I only had one flat face, which is the face that I ran through the planer, so I'm sanding the other face until it's flat. This will allow for a good glue joint. I'm making sure to offset each ring by a consistent amount. I'm not doing a consistent degree because degrees will get larger in distance as the diameter of the bowl increases. With all of the rings on, the pattern starts to show through. I can use the speed of the spindle to adjust how the bowl is being seen because of the frame rate of the camera. And with all of the rings attached, I can begin turning. I'm using a combination of a bowl gouge, a scraper, and some carbide tools to get the job done. I'm starting off on the inside so that I can support the bowl with the tailstock to turn the outside when the thickness of the walls will be thinner. This will prevent chatter. I'm starting at the rim and getting it perfectly done, then moving my way towards the inside of the bowl. After the rim is done, I should never have to go back and touch it. This decreases chatter because there's more support at the base of the bowl to support the outside parts. Here you can also see the pattern, leaving a pattern on the screen due to the shutter speed. With the inside done, I can turn my attention to the outside and follow the same process. With the shape completed, I can now sand the bowl. I'm starting with 80 grit and going up to 600 grit. After 600 grit, I'm using steel wool. And then I'm going to put some finish on. I'm using boiled linseed oil and polyurethane mix. This really brings out the colors of the bowl. The oil seeps in and the poly gives a nice shine. This is by far my most ambitious project to date. I wasn't 100% sure whether my tools would be capable of doing what I needed them to make this bowl. There are 1,070 individual pieces on this bowl. I'm really proud of how it turned out. Please hit the like button and subscribe. Go check out the shirt, link down in the description. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.